Liam and Noel Gallagher are heading back on tour as Oasis reunite in 2025. Fans have been rushing to get a pre-sale code for the summer tour, with the Gallagher brothers doing their first live dates together in several years. As part of the pre-sale element, fans have been asked to prove their support of the group. In one of the questions, fans have been asked who the original drummer is in the band to prove their loyalty. Known as Tony, drummer Anthony McCarroll was actually part of a band when it was known as The Rain, with the Gallagher brothers nowhere to be seen. Paul "Bonehead" Arthurs on the guitar, Paul "Guigsy" McGuigan on bass and Chris Hutton on vocals and keys formed the band. It was in 1991 that they invited Liam to join as the lead vocalist, when he suggested they change the group's name to Oasis, later bringing in his brother Noel after he attended their first ever performance at the Boardwalk Club in Manchester on August 14, 1991. Who is the original Oasis drummer Anthony McCarroll? Born in Levenshulme, Manchester on June 4, 1971, Tony was one of the original band members when it was renamed from The Rain to Oasis after Gallagher's joined. He worked on the band's debut album Definitely Maybe, which was released in 1994. He featured on Whatever, Supersonic and Shakermaker, but his time in Oasis didn't come without criticism. Hardcore fans didn't like his sloppy drumming and he subsequently left the group after the release of Definitely Maybe back in 1995. Tony was involved in a spat with the band's principal Noel during a tour at the time after the songwriter became frustrated with his drumming. A heated row is thought to have followed in which Tony reportedly told Noel to FK off. He was replaced by Alan White until 2004. What did Anthony McCarroll do after Oasis? Anthony McCarroll left Oasis in 1995, going on to enjoy a glittering career alongside other bands in the music industry, including the Boo Radleys. But his run-ins with Liam and Noel Gallagher didn't end in '95, going on to sue the band for £18 million back in 1999. Tony hired Pete Best's lawyer after his £2 million settlement from the Beatles in 1995, and hoped to achieve the multi-million-pound payday after his stint in Oasis. He argued he was entitled to the eye-watering amount as part of the band's 5-album record deal. Things were actually settled out of court for a much lesser amount. Tony agreed to give up any royalties from the band's songs for a payment of £550,000. What did Anthony McCarroll do after suing Oasis? After settling for £550,000, Tony stayed out of the limelight for 3 years in a bid to avoid watching the band's rapid rise to fame. It was in 2019 that he sat down with the Mirror's sister newspaper, the Manchester Evening News, and admitted he needed to get away. With the band I was used to traveling, touring. I just needed to get away. The band were getting bigger, good on them, but I needed to get away from the whole thing. So I began to ignore and neglect a few things and got away. I lived in the States, Tenerife. Really, I got drunk for 3 whole years. But at the same time the court case was all ongoing, so I'm trying to get away from it all, but I'm also dealing with questions from solicitors round the clock. And that just wasn't me. I was a young lad. I didn't appreciate or care about law and litigation, and I was just gutted I had to go through that. It dragged and it dragged and it dragged, when it should have been dealt with in a much better way. Where is Oasis drummer Anthony McCarroll now? Tony detailed a lot of his life in his 2010 autobiography The Truth. My Life as Oasis Drummer. But since the book's release, not a lot is known about his life, apart from the rare sit-down interview with the Manchester Evening News just before the pandemic. He was actually spotted earlier this year before the Liam and Noel announced that Oasis was coming back together. He was photographed near his home in North London, looking in high spirits as he ran errands after a truly turbulent career in the music industry. Follow Mirror Celebs on TikTok.